You guys need a
Yes, please.
need a program.
Thanks, Brad.
Let's call this meeting to order.
Looks like I'm plugging this
Annie?
Please bow your heads and open your hearts. As we come together today, we ask that we have the strength, wisdom, good judgment to make wise decisions for the citizens of our county. We also ask that our troops and all emergency personnel be kept safe and protected from harm. We ask all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's received a copy of the minutes. I'm a little excited about getting on with
Earl Baker. Here. Earl Baker.
Here.
Kenny Barr.
Here.
Barbara Bennett. Here. Bruce Cannon.
Here.
Levon Cheney. Here. Brian Kaufman.
Here.
Candy Ditzler. Here. Dennis Durnovich.
Here.
Jesse Durbin.
Here.
Gary Gergany.
Here.
Richard Hayden.
Here.
Robert Jordan.
Here.
Larry Lenz.
Yes.
Terry Metzger.
Here.
Frank Mulholland.
Here.
Bobby Orman.
Here.
Gary Patterson.
Here.
Robert Simpson.
Here.
Jeff Slifer.
Here.
David Switz.
Here.
Don Tate. Lynn Williams.
Here.
Okay. The minutes have been mailed out with the packages. Has anybody got any suggestions, additions, or do we have approval for them as they were mailed? Motion by Frank. Do we have a second? Second by Larry Lenz. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those approve, or those against say nay. Motion carries. Item number 4. Gary.
I've given a lot of thought to this. I've had a lot of calls. I've had a lot of concerns. There's a lot going on. I regret what I'm saying, Bruce, asking you to remove yourself, but we've got to move forward. We're dragging our feet. We're accomplishing nothing. I'm hearing a lot of things that's going on and we're considering and thinking about doing that I don't recall discussing in our meeting. The trying to hire a lawyer. And there's just so many things that are saying the entire board's not involved. I think we need to be well informed as a board. I think we need strong leadership. I think we've got to move forward as a unit. There's just too much going on. I was reading where we're looking at trying to come up with a new arrangement on the county highway engineer. I must have missed the meeting notes were discussed or where the county board decided it was going in that direction. I think we all need to be in on the same level and the same understanding. I think we need leadership that's going to hold us together and keep us informed and try to make us work together. All we're doing is going in different directions so my move is to ask for replacement for our chairman. I have no secret answer on it, but I'm just tired of trying to answer questions to people with the calls that we're getting. I don't know, maybe I'm the only board member getting calls. I hear a lot of people saying they're getting calls too. I think we're looking bad in the news media. This deal with the sheriff's pay, we're in what, 9 months? And we've still not made any move. I think we've got to start taking some of these problems that's coming up and putting the effort into them and coming up with solutions. So I make the motion that we replaced Bruce with a different leader.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have motion by Gary. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about this. We're revisiting this. We've already had votes that it was voted down one time. This was a couple months ago.
No.
Who said no?
I did.
Okay, and there wasn't a motion?
Yeah.
Show me an agenda where that was listed.
Get a second.
Say what?
Show me an agenda where any action was on there to do what you're saying.
You show me the action that I'm not right,
You got it. Thank you.
okay? We have businesses. Any of the board members, I'm just asking for board members, do you remember when they did that?
There was a motion made with a lack of a second, so it failed.
And it was not on the agenda.
Okay, so what you're saying, because it was lack of a second and it wasn't on the agenda, then why did we make that motion?
Earl made the motion and it died because of lack of a second.
Okay, so Earl seconded this time, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
We
So
this time have a legitimate motion on the floor for the board to vote on.
do you believe that's a legitimate motion?
Yeah, I think it's got a first, it's got a second, and we're in the discussion stage, and we're gonna have a real vote at the end of this of the board members to either throw me out or retain me for the remainder of my 2 or 3 month
Okay. If that's what you decide you want to do, Mr. Chairman, so be it.
Yeah, I'd say call a vote. I have no intention of resigning.
I believe it takes 2/3 of a majority to remove the chair.
No, forfeit.
Go ahead, Bobby.
So in the letter to Gina, there was implications made of our former chairman, several board members, of knowledge of the situation in the highway department. If I were you, I would be livid right now because you were spoken for and you didn't know what you were saying. So with that, and then the retainer, you know, that was signed off on by Bruce. To my knowledge, we don't have a letter of engagement even to review any such information pertaining to a retainer. So how can we have a retainer bill on the books to approve before we even have a letter of engagement to review? So, you know, there's some things here that just, you know.
At the last board meeting, the board acted to retain and hire 2020 forensic, John Vandenberg out of Bethany. He presented us with a contract which was reviewed by Gina, myself. I carried out and executed that contract per board action. He presented a $5,000 retainer with that contract, which is available if anybody wants to take a look at it. In the state's attorney's office. She's got a copy of it.
So that is a real engagement.
That is a real engagement. He's engaged.
So we have done the real
It passed by majority.
We passed by majority at the last board, and I acted on it. I carried through on the engagement. I've engaged Mr. Vandenberg. He requested a $5,000 retainer. Hell, I'd asked for more than that with this county, but he requested that. I approved it. It should have gone in with the monthly bills. Per board action.
So who established the points of contact?
Gina, state's attorney.
I didn't know we approved her as the point of contact.
Well, she's our state's attorney. I don't think we have to approve her.
She's the one that's representing us.
She's our legal. We don't have any
She's our legal.
outside legal. I don't know where Gary gets this idea we've got outside legal. the
No, I said we
outside.
were looking at. My
I'm
understanding,
not looking at
That was a whole
anything.
different, that was a whole different.
That's a whole different, I'm not looking
Yeah.
at anything.
I'm just talking in general. Bruce,
Well, in general, I'm not looking for outside attorney, I'm looking for legal advice from the state's attorney.
Yeah.
And that's where I take my advice. And David? Call for the vote.
No, Mr. Chairman, I still want
I'll second that.
Let's,
to, I had my hand up and
let's let Earl talk.
one of the reasons I second this time is that last month's meeting, the chairman let y'all down the wrong path when we asked about things that weren't on the agenda. And one of the members in the audience said that was illegal, wasn't on the agenda.
Who's the member?
Who's the member? What? Kurt back there, or John mentioned that it was illegal because it wasn't on the agenda. Our chairman blatantly said, I'm gonna do it anyway. Y'all took a vote. One of you broke the law. It was later asked by our state's attorney, and she said that we needed to rescind it.
And we did.
So, yeah,
And we
but
did.
we violated the law, we should have never done it. And if we had a chairman that would have.
But we made things
Hey,
right.
I've got the floor, okay? I didn't interrupt you.
You're right, you did not.
So anyway, we had an attorney, he could have got the advice from her before y'all voted for something that was illegal. That's the kind of representation we got on a chairman. He's leading you down the wrong road. And that's why we need to remove him from chairman. I have nothing personally against him, he's just not a leader.
Okay, I second that. Call the question.
Okay, so we have, the motion has been approved, the discussion has been held. Time to have a roll call vote. Jessica, call the vote.
And this is in favor of removal.
This is a yes to remove you and a no not to, all right?
That would be right. A no would be not to remove me, a yes would be to remove me.
And how many is for fist? Do we know that? 17?
Okay, check.
17 repeats.
Yeah, 17 and a half.
Okay, Earl Baker,
Yes.
Kenny Barr,
No.
Barbara Bennett,
No.
Levon Cheney,
No.
Brian Kaufman, Candy Ditzler,
No.
Dennis Sturdivich,
No.
Jesse Durbin,
No.
Gary Gerbenny,
yes.
Richard Hayden,
No.
Robert Jordan,
No.
Larry Lenz,
No.
Terry Metzger,
No.
Frank Mulholland,
No.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Gary Patterson,
No.
Robert Simpson,
No.
Jeff Slifer,
Yes.
David Switz,
No.
Lynn Williams.
No.
Okay, it was 16-4, with 16 being against removing Chairman Cannon as chairman.
Chairman gonna vote?
He doesn't have to.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I will vote no.
For the record, yes, chairman should vote.
Yeah, for the record, I don't vote, but if I were to vote, I'd vote no. So everybody voted anyway. It sounds like I'm gonna stay on as chairman. So, Jeff, you wanna have a discussion to reconsider the hiring of CPA John Vandenberg? At this point, we can do that. We've signed the contracts with him. You wanna have a discussion?
Yeah, Bobby's gonna pass some stuff out for me. In light of things that's come to light after the last meeting, just want to say a few things here. First of all, I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me, I'm nervous as hell. I want to start by saying, hopefully most of you in the audience has got to read the highlighted areas in these emails. And some things that stood out in my mind and got attention. So take a few minutes and just at least read through the highlighted areas. I'd like a little participation here with the board and the public, with a show of hands. Just simple questions.
Point of order. Can we do that with the public too?
I don't think they have a vote in if
This
they
is a
do.
board meeting right
This is
here.
show of hands. All right, fine. Don't pay any attention to
Well,
it.
I'm just trying to.
That's fine.
They'll get their chance.
Raise your hands if you want to. You don't have to participate. How many people think that there's corruption in the federal government? How many people? How many people think there's corruption in state government? Now, how many people, after reading these emails, think there is a possibility of corruption in the county government? The points, you guys can read the points. If you want me to read them off, I will. It don't make me any difference.
Yeah, read them off.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we're gonna read these off. These are Alicia Benford's points. Okay,
Correct.
We have John Vandenberg sitting right back here with us. He needs to be able to retaliate if he wants to. Retaliate? You're asking for the board to, you're asking for the board to reconsider a motion that the board made. Reconsideration of a board motion, we need to vacate the motion, really before reconsideration, I believe. But let's talk about it. But I think you need to give Mr. Vandenberg a chance to say what he may be. I don't think that there's any, I don't think that, we hire a professional to do an audit. We expect certain standards out of that individual, for him to follow.
Do you not see any flaws?
I'll tell you what I see with this group out of Chicago is that they lost the bid. They lost the vote. That's a simple thing.
Not the question. Did you read any of these that I highlighted? You do not
This
see a problem
was
with them at
written,
all?
this was written after she came down here, after she lost the vote. We didn't follow any rules improperly. This delays.
That is not a question that
This
Bruce.
simply delays getting this investigation under order. We need to get this out of the way. We need to find out if there was.
And we need to do it the right way as well.
And I think we do too, and I think that the board has picked a very qualified professional.
This has come to light after the vote last month. That's what's got me concerned.
Mr. Chairman, I want to add something here. I asked Ben, this guy worked, John, if he ever done work with the county, and he said no. When it comes to the light, now he's done work with county board members.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address that right there. I am one member of the county board that Mr. Vanderberg does payroll for me. I was not at the last meeting when this vote occurred. I would have rescinded my vote or not voted this because of that. I want that on record now. I don't want anybody else saying anything directed towards me on that.
I don't even know who the 4 are, that's why I was,
So I'm going there from that right now. There's a vote on that today. I will not vote.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I know that.
I'm another one too,
Okay.
and I voted no in the original.
You should have probably not voted.
I should have voted present, but.
Yes.
Who's the other 2? I heard 4.
So is that not, or not room for corruption? And it passed.
What about the stuff on the internet about the lady up there? There's some bad stuff on there, if you look it up.
Yeah, she's got, I mean,
You got problems too.
Weston County does my taxes, we're not using them to do our audit.
All I'm saying is, I want it done right. We owe it to the people to do this the right way.
We done it right.
You're gonna have problems with that.
Read this.
We had a motion
It's
and
the
we
law.
It passed, but we
It
know.
passed.
So the reason she wrote this letter, the emailed back, is because she's held to internal control standards, that if she doesn't say anything about something she felt was wrong, and she states why she thought it was wrong, then she could be held just as accountable as the person making incorrect statements, if those statements were found incorrect.
Well, I got a question on that.
So that's why I didn't agree.
You said she did this, and my question is, did somebody request this or ask them to write this up?
No,
Now, you're positive, nobody had talked to them?
because within an hour after the meeting,
Yeah,
I personally spoke with her on the phone. She goes, she said, I'm gonna have to write a letter.
okay.
So you get contact with her, and you talk to her.
So you make contact with her.
So there was contact.
Is that proper?
I wanted her business card. Because I didn't,
Is that proper?
She's trying to advise us the right way to do things here.
I'm not saying she
She's
didn't
advising
know.
us after
My point
the
is,
presentations. She should have
He had
advised
it.
us.
If it was illegal during the presentation, it's illegal after the presentation.
But you should have got up and talked right then,
Yeah.
and let us know that. And I voted for her, but I'm not gonna vote for her again, just because you people are so bullheaded and stubborn that we took a vote and it didn't go your way, that now you can't stand it.
Way to go, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
I talk like it is and I tell it like it is. And that's the whole story behind this whole thing.
Do we need to have a vote, or do we just need to,
I don't do that motion yet.
do we have a motion to reconsider this, or you wanna,
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
okay. Do we have a second?
That's the way it was. She should have told all this stuff to her. And I hadn't had somebody call her up and talk.
I talked to her afterwards, and I asked her about that, and she said she was checking with her legal counsel.
Okay, we have a
my
motion
question
on the
is,
floor.
Vanderburg, does he get,
We have a motion on the floor, do we have a second?
I'll second
And you're
that
from the
motion.
public, are you not?
Can I say something? I sat beside her, and she told me at the end of the meeting that your meetings were a joke, period.
Ma'am, that's fine, and this can continue a joke with the public right now. And we're in a board meeting. We have a first, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, Earl gives us a second, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, or do we call a vote on this?
To do what?
John?
What's the
Well,
motion?
the motion is to reconsider our last month's meeting. Basically say it didn't happen. And then, that's basically what it is.
Is John here? I'd like to ask.
John is here, and we're in discussion here.
Yeah.
But the motion is to can the last month. Now we're in discussion. John, would you like to say something?
Yes, please. So, thank you for the opportunity to explain this. I'll more than happily answer anybody's questions. I do want to address, this is the first I had seen this email with the highlighted information. I want to address three things that this seems to bring up. Number one is that my comment about you are my client, no one else is entitled to that information other than you. That is correct. Now, you are a public body. Your information is FOIAble. I'm not going to give your information to anybody but you. So this can be manipulated and construed as to say that I'm not cooperating with a FOIA request, but I'm not subject to FOIA requests. You all are. As a matter of a practitioner, I don't respond to public requests for my client's information. You're my client. You guys have an obligation to disclose that to people that ask. So the first point is a manipulation of reality. I don't share your information with anybody but my client. You're my client. What you're required to do with it is your compliance with your rules and regulations. The second issue appears to be about recovery. It would be professionally responsible of me to tell you that whatever amount of money we come up with is going to be recovered. I don't have the ability to do that. I don't have any control over that. My ability is to say, this is an amount of money that I believe has been inappropriately handled, and then it's up to the judicial system to try to recover that. That is not for me to determine, not for me to enforce, not for me to promise. That would be irresponsible of me to tell you, you should engage me to do this work, pay me this money because you're going to get all this money back. I have no control over whether you get it back. That's upon you guys. The third issue is the one that talks about clients. And I will say clients to CPAs are an important thing. There is such a thing called a conflict of interest. A conflict of interest would be that if there is a situation that causes you to change your opinion or your actions, then that is a conflict of interest. I have two clients, I have thousands of clients that I deal with on an every year basis. Two of those clients are on your board. They've expressed that today. Those two clients, one was absent, the other voted no. I did not receive a preferential treatment on the vote based on clients. I don't know where somebody came up with 4. This is a fabrication of details that's happened that I find pretty laughable. In the 17 years since I've been in business, I've collected less than $1,000 from anybody that's on your board currently. So I didn't have a financial motivation to modify my behavior. I didn't receive a preferential vote. I wouldn't know your sheriff unless I was introduced to him. And I've dealt with Gina on exactly 2 occasions. One was the state case that was brought through Shelby County, and the second was when she called asking me if I would talk to your board to answer questions. So I'll be glad to be as transparent as you all need to feel that, you know, this is unfortunate to believe that things can get spun in this direction. But I completely disagree with the interpretation of them, and I'll be glad to transparently answer anybody's questions. But I also want to say, if your board feels that you want somebody that's not regional to do your work, you should absolutely do that. But don't hide behind the fact that this is a conflict of interest that causes me to not do it. It's not a conflict of interest. If you want to have somebody that's not from around here, I wholeheartedly support that. Absolutely. My only desire in meeting with you guys and being transparent has been in an effort to help. Absolutely no problem whatsoever if you want to have somebody not from around here do it. I support that completely. But I don't want to be attacked as though I violated the law or created a conflict of interest that somehow got me a benefit that I've not gotten. I will happily cooperate with you guys using somebody else, but don't pretend that this is something that's brought up here. So I'll gladly answer anybody's questions if this is the forum for it.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to rescind my second. After listening to John, thanks, John, appreciate it. Probably should have called him myself.
Okay. So now we don't
Can I say
have
something, Bruce?
Huh?
Can I say something?
Yes, Robert.
We've been fighting this for so long, and we're all wanting to get it taken care of and properly. So I don't know where anybody thinks we're trying to do something illegal. We want to get it solved too. We tried the other route that didn't work. Now it's time to get it done. That's my comment.
When can you start?
Well, he has the contract was signed last month. You've got a copy of the back, is that correct? John asked for a $5,000 retainer. I approved that. Should have gone through fee or purchasing.
We approved it.
And been approved, so the bill is waiting to be paid. I think as soon as John gets a check, he's ready to start. Is that correct, John?
Correct.
In the purchasing committee, I'm chair of the purchasing committee that has been approved per rule of engagement. So that means, yes, when we approve this.
After the board meeting, when we approve the bills and actions of the board, the contract is approved, and as well as the bill of $5,000 retainer.
So the check will be written?
Well,
We've approved it.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Jeff.
I'd like to rescind my motion.
Okay. Okay, so we rescinded motion 5. 6.
No, I'm sorry. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay? Because I was asked that, actually, Bruce, it has to do with you. I thought, they wanted to revisit the issue, but now, this issue that he rescinded, and no disrespect toward you, but if it comes back, where do we go and what do we do? I guess that's my question.
Well,
would that be something that we have to revisit, or
no,
is it?
I don't think it's gonna come back. I think the request to get rid of me may happen until my term is over. That's gonna happen, okay? But just, the Republicans are not having very good committee meetings. I'm the topic, evidently. And I'm a Republican, so, it's.
Republican, Democrat, whatever.
Whatever.
We're all the same
We've got to
people.
run a county here. And I think that things have been not explained very well, and I think that John just helped understand the view of items. So, any other? Are we ready to vote? I've got it on silent. I think with that, we're ready to move on to item 7, Eric, the firm.
Yes.
All right, your report, the first report we'll go over is the income and expense with budget, which is just over the general fund, Fund 009 and 054, which are not restricted funds. You have that report if you have any questions about it. I'll do my best to answer those. Kind of let you know where we ended up for the year. Revenues came in at 105.54%. Expenditures on the 001 account finished at 91.07%.
And that's the monthly, the month to date was.
No, that's the fiscal year.
Okay, 105 for the year, okay, thank you.
This is a
So we're
general
fine.
fund report, right?
General fund and 009 and 054 are there.
So we're 5% over budget.
Those are estimated revenues. We were 5% above the estimated revenue. Our expenditures were at 91.07%.
How did the special fund expenses and revenue come out?
There's 60-some accounts. I didn't print all those. That I'll be giving that report in the,
End of the year.
no, at the budget committee is where we normally discuss all of the funds. I didn't really think we had time to go over 60 funds.
No, I just wanted to see bottom line. I don't want to go over individuals.
The reports print off by fund, so, I mean, bottom line, I'm not sure. I have a report that we'll go over at the budget committee.
I just assumed we'd have a bottom line total in the system.
I don't know what you mean by bottom line total.
Like after you put in the special fund expenses and income total, we showed here that we had $33,000. Let me get that again. So we have $131,000 loss in the general fund in the year just ended, and I was curious how we ended the year in the special funds account, and then we have a total at the bottom that would say whether we made or lost money overall this year.
The funds are, I mean, there's, like I said, there's 60-some funds, so.
I know, but in their total, it doesn't.
It doesn't go by total because each fund is different and they're special funds and they can only be spent certain ways. It's
Right.
not money. I gave you the money that you have the ability to control, that you can spend. It's not restricted. We've never gone over restricted funds in a county board meeting. We'll go over that in the budget committee
Okay,
meeting.
so there's no way they could have lost any money in restricted funds then? I mean, I think that's.
I mean, none of the budgets were overspent and I doubt they spent more than what was in the, no, that means the fund would have gone bankrupt and it didn't. No funds went
Okay.
blank.
Thank you.
So any other questions? All right, so your general fund cash balance in August, we started at $2,758,762.91. The payroll liabilities there, revenue was $324,746.77. Our expenses for the month of August were $419,598.10. With an ending balance of $2,668,997, with your restricted funds in that account being $544,946.92, leaving you an available cash balance of $2,123,954.05 in the general fund. Any questions on that? I'll go on to the resolutions then. We have two parcel numbers that went to auction through the county trustee, and they need to be put on the, back on the tax rolls. So I've got two resolutions here. One is for parcel number 1208-0408-212-010. And that is, that one is in And that bid and sold at $1486.50. Pardon me? That's not what this says. Yeah, the total there, with the remainder and the agent, total paid by the purchaser was $2,050, sorry. And then the second parcel that to be added back to the tax rolls is 0723-16-18-311-003, and the total paid by the purchaser there was $1,250. So I would ask that these be added back to the tax roll.
Brian Cobb makes a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bob Jordan. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, we've got the budget approved, or the budget in front of everybody. We presented it last meeting. I need a motion for approval of the budget as presented. Levon makes a motion, Barbara makes a second. We have a roll call vote. Jessica, could you call the vote?
Earl Baker.
No.
Kenny Barr.
Yes.
Barbara Bennett.
Yes.
Levon Cheney.
Yes.
Brian Hoffman.
Yes.
Candy Ditzler.
Yes.
Dennis Gernovich.
Yes.
Jesse Durbin.
Yes.
Gary Gergany.
No.
Richard Hayden.
Yes.
Robert Jordan.
Yes.
Larry Lenz.
Yeah.
Terry Metzger.
Yes.
Frank Mulholland.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
No.
Gary Patterson.
Yes.
Robert Simpson.
Yes.
Jeff Slifer.
No.
David Switz.
Yes.
Lynn Williams.
Yes. Wait a minute, I want to support the budget.
Yeah. Motion
I'm
carried
sorry,
16-4.
You're okay. Okay, motion carries. We have a motion in place for the item. Next item, Alan Spencer, would you like to make the highway report?
Yes, I have one resolution, 2 agreements, and some updates. The first resolution I have is to replace a deteriorated culvert on the county line between Shelby County and Effingham County. When a culvert is on the county line of a certain square footage, the cost is to be split between the counties. In this case, Effingham County would pay 65% of the bill, and Shelby County would pay 35%. The estimated cost is $12,000. I'm asking approval to replace that culvert.
Do we have a motion? Jesse Durbin, do we have a second?
Second.
Bob Simpson, those in favor say aye.
I got a question on that. If we're sharing the cost, why is it 65-35 instead of 50-50?
It's based on assessed valuation.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, carries.
The next 2 agreements are a continuation of last month. Last month, we had Drew Tossell and Associates to design bridges in Ridge Township and in Astro, on the Astro Big Spring Township line. They informed me a month and a half ago they could not do the work because their staff, basically the staff they had left their company, and they are now with Gonzalez Engineering. So I'm asking approval, two agreements, both for Gonzalez Engineering. So the first one is I'm recommending Gonzalez Engineering complete the designs of those bridges, the bridge on the Ashbrook Big Spring Township lot.
Do I have a motion for approval? Tommy, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Earl Baker makes a second. Those in favor, any questions?
Which bridge is that? Is that the one just east of the one they replaced?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Yeah, vote for that one. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay. Go ahead, Alan.
The next one is I'm recommending approval for Gonzalez Engineering to continue the design for the bridge in Ridge Township. It's located north of Kenton.
So moved. Motion and a second from Bob and Kenny. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Okay, I have some updates. We've talked about the salt storage shed, the need for a salt storage shed at the highway department for a long time now. I am planning on bidding the shed out on October 8th, 9 a.m. at the highway department, so I'll be able to present that next month, the results of that bid. The highway department will build the foundation and the walls for that, concrete walls themselves, and this will be, so it's just the superstructure part of it.
And the superstructure is going to be a hoop building, is that
Yeah.
correct?
I've reported several times about the Western Belt Railroad Crossing Approach Project that's been delayed several times. And it was awarded last month, the County Board awarded it last month to Brad Agnew. Actually, the approved job is going on right now as we speak, and I would expect that project to start this month. There is a potential another delay, and that's to get a permit from the railroad, which normally doesn't take very long, but they've informed the contractor that it could take 60 to 90 days. I think that's a result of the COVID issues. So it would not surprise me if the project gets started, stopped, we reopen the road, and it gets finished next year. That project is 100% funded by the Illinois Commerce Commission. The bridge in Prairie Township that was closed, and construction has started on that, and it's gone very well. We've been very fortunate with the weather. I would expect it to be completed this month and reopened. The railroad crossing approach project in Clarksburg Township, the only remaining item on that is seal coating the road, and I would expect that to occur within the next few weeks. And that project will be complete. And that is my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth?
Question for Alan. Alan, we always hear over the news and stuff about the degradation of the bridges across the country and stuff. In our county, as an engineer, if you was to have a grade, like a high school grade, A, B, C, C, or D, or whatever, what would you rate our bridges at overall, countywide?
I don't know what the grade would be, but I can tell you the statistics. We have, well, let me start with what a bridge is. By the federal government, a bridge is a structure that's over 20 foot in front. So we don't even track bridges that are less than 20 foot in front. There are 312 bridges in Shelby County, which is an abnormally large quantity.
312?
Yeah, and they are inspected by my department, and there's an evaluation criteria for bridges. We have the second most quantity of bridges that are evaluated to be in need of replacement or eligible for replacement with federal funds. That's not a good number to have, but that's the data. We are also a very large county with a large number of miles of roads, so a lot of our expenses go to other things than bridges. We have approximately in the lower 20% in funding of all the 102 counties, but we're in the top 10% in mileage of roads and bridges, so that's a bad combination.
How many bridges we've been replacing? We've been practically opening 2 bridges a year.
Yeah, and it used to be 4 or 5. The expenses of the bridges have gone up, the funding hasn't. We are working on approximately 12 bridges right now in my department to be programmed in the future to be replaced. So when I come before the board and I recommend a bridge to be replaced, it is quite a few years before it actually gets replaced. Unless we move it up in the line, and sometimes we do that if it's closed. We try and do the closed bridges, and,
And even if it's moved up in the line, it may be 2 to 3
yeah,
years before
it's
the
several
project
years, it's
gets
a very
done.
bureaucratic method of getting bridges, environmental and design and review process, so.
So some of them you may have to shut down temporarily till you get the funding, is that?
Well,
Yeah.
the reason a bridge gets closed is because we evaluate it, and it looks like it's basically structurally unsafe. My department has the authority to temporarily close a bridge based on our concerns. When we have a concern, we have to, that results in a closed bridge, we have to send paperwork to the state, and IDOT comes down and evaluates it, and they do one of two things. They either agree that it should be closed, or they reevaluate it, and we post it at a different weight. So not all bridges that we close end up being closed.
How many are closed in the county now?
Well, there's always between 10 and 20. Some of those bridges have been closed for decades.
Yeah.
And Bob knows about that too. And so some of them, we're planning on replacing a bridge in Black Ranch Township next year that's currently closed. We were replacing the bridge that I reported on in Prairie Township that was closed before we started construction. So, but the problem is, we may replace 2 or 3 a year because of the funding, and every other year we have another one that's closed because of the structural deficiency. So we never catch up.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Alan? If not, let's move into the committee reports. Who wants to volunteer? Frank?
Yeah. At the last meeting, it was discussed, the employee handbook was brought out. As chairman of the Fees and Salaries Committee, who's in charge of the handbook, it's our unanimous recommendation that nothing be done on that handbook until such time as these pressing issues with the county are resolved. The investigation into the sheriff's department, we're not even finished with FOP negotiations yet. All these things could change what goes into the handbook. So it's our recommendation unanimously, I might add again, that we don't do anything in the handbook until we get some of these issues resolved. Is that a motion? No, it's a recommendation. And also, as chairman of the Fees and Salaries, we were tasked with trying to find a new EMA director. And we have put ads in all the newspapers around the area. And thus far, we've had no response whatsoever. I'm just not sure where we go from here. I think maybe Jared put the ad on the website with Aima, didn't he?
Well, I talked to him, I've been on vacation all last week. I talked to him just before I left, and he was working on it. I just got back yesterday and I had a chance to follow up.
Okay. So far,
But I will.
we've had no one that's showed any interest in the position, so we're still looking, but it doesn't look good. And that's my report.
Okay. Denny, you handed out some stuff for the law enforcement committee.
Yep, I've got a report on that. About 3 or 4 things here. At our meeting, which was last week on the 3rd, it was announced that Cody Reeves is going to be retiring from the sheriff's department, and his last day of employment is going to be October the 18th. And Matt Grant, who used to work at Shelby County, has applied for that job. and he's currently with the Windsor PD, and he's been hired to replace him after Cody retires, or he'll be in training anyhow to replace Cody, and he doesn't need much training since he's already an officer.
His last name was Matt what?
Matt Graham.
Graham.
And he's an officer where?
At Windsor.
He's chief.
He used to be here, I think, was he corrections here? He was corrections at Shelby County, and then he got a chance to be an officer, so he went to Windsor, and then when his opening came about, well, he's coming back to Shelby County as an officer this time. So he's had the training. And also, there are 11 currently in the detention center, but that number should go up quite a bit because there's a lot of warrants out, and now people can be picked up on warrants, and they're starting to pick people up on warrants, and there are a lot of them on that list. And the sheet that I handed out today, what that's about, in August, the sheriff had quite a few bills after the board meeting last month that were carried over to this month, and they put an amendment on last month that they really ended up not needing because they actually have surplus instead of a shortage on their budget since these bills couldn't be paid and had to be carried over. But what I gave you today is in the sheriff's job description in General Assembly, this shows that the sheriff can turn his bill in to be paid. And I know the sheriff has asked for a legal opinion on that, and it came up at least 3 meetings in the last year. But since this affected his year end, he decided, it was time to find out what he really did and didn't need to do. So that's why I handed this out this morning. This is actually in the sheriff's job description, and it shows that you can see here that the sheriff is a department that exists and turn in his bills, other than large items like cars, specialty items, but it says his monthly bills can be turned in for payment.
Okay, I'm gonna address this since the county clerk's office does accounts payable. When the sheriff was elected in 2014, in January of 2015, February of 2015, he met with myself, purchasing at the time because they were reviewing his bills, and decided that his bills would go to law enforcement and they would be paid as they were turned in. Now, there's also a statute out there that says once you approve any department head's budget, they can spend that money any way they want to. When Erica, myself, and Erica's bookkeeper met with our new county auditor in September, October of 2019, they informed us that this practice of paying bills several times a month needed to stop, and bills needed to be paid once a month upon approval of the county board. And I sent an email out. I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. If we're only paying bills once a month, that's not only going to happen in December, but it's also going to happen in August at the end of the fiscal year. This isn't just a sheriff's issue. All departments would like to have their bills paid probably as they're turned in, especially the last month of our fiscal year. We are only doing what our auditor suggested, and that is paying bills once a month. I might also add, we have found out that the county board approves the payment for claims. Not a department head, not a committee. So, I guess the county board needs to decide if they're going to let every county department pay their bills whenever they're submitted, or whether we're going to do things the right way and only pay them once a month. But that's up to you guys. But I don't tell the sheriff how to do his job, and I don't appreciate him trying to tell the county clerk's office how to do theirs. 1 year, at the end of the fiscal year, I don't know how many checks for the sheriff, came back, had to void several of them. So, yes, Bobby?
What is this statute referencing? What are you driving at with this statute?
Well, this is, if you go to the General Assembly and go under the Sheriff's Department, this is listed there as one of his job duties. And I looked at several other offices, and the other offices don't have this clause. And he gave us a picture, Danny's got here, of training he went to, and that's something they mentioned to him in their training, when he goes to training, is that they have this statute that other offices don't have.
I spoke to other counties I spoke to other county clerks in the area when this statute came up, and most counties only pay their bills once a month upon approval by the county board. So, you know, we implemented this in October of 2019, was not trying to be difficult, but if I would have written any checks after August 12th board meeting, they would have been dated for September 9th. Because they had to be approved by the board.
But even if we approve them, sometimes they're not paid anyway. If the treasury refuses to pay them, we don't pay it. So, I mean,
Gary,
But the reason he's asking the question is because he goes to training and they bring this subject up. I think he's approached Gina just to find out what he really needs to do. He's not trying to be illegal, other than that, I can't tell you. I don't think he's here, as we was just discussed at our meeting.
Gary, do we know what the amount of bills may be, or is it gonna materially affect our balance sheet?
I don't have, do you know how many dollars worth of bills that was that were carried over?
No, because they were all paid with September, so,
I
I mean, it
guess-
wasn't anything out of the norm.
I can't tell you, all I know is he said he has $172,000 left in his budget from last year, and obviously they wouldn't have needed an amendment last month.
How much do they have left over?
They have $172,000 left over that will be returned to the
See,
treasury.
that's where these $1 million deficit budgets come
That's how
back
those
to us.
budgets come back, yes.
Not working their budgets very good if they got that much left over.
Well, I think it's wonderful.
Oh,
Well, yeah, but they should be budgeting tighter than that if we're running $1 million in the hole.
that's why we cut it.
We don't really think we're running $1 million in the hole,
That's why
but
we cut it.
Well, we approved $1 million budget.
that's right, but we don't think it'll turn out. to
Well,
be-
turn out, that's
And
why,
that's-
because you
that's
got
why-
people holding on more than,
That's why we
not
cut it this
budgeting.
year.
Look how many
That's
dollars
good.
came back last year.
We try, and I don't know, we don't know we don't know the figures here, so, but,
What's-
Just like last year, after a budget was made, then the state came down and said that we could have a probation officer, and they recommended one, so one was hired after the budget was approved last year. People look at what's coming once a year and try to guess what you're gonna do for the next 12 months,
well, yeah.
and they don't know what the
That's
state's
what-
gonna
that's what a
require,
budget is.
they don't know what's gonna change, and that's why next year the finance committee is gonna meet on a more regular basis and try to stay on top of this so we can amend the budgets during the year,
I
which I
understand
don't
that.
think's ever been done
I'm trying to
before.
figure out what you're talking about here. What's the difference of paying something
Yeah.
3 times a month versus 1 time a month, like the clerk
I
said?
don't know
What's
what
the
the
difference?
issue is.
What's the
Other
difference?
than the fact it was just at the year end, so those bills now will be on his 2021.
That's his problem, he should have turned them in.
Well, they weren't here yet, they didn't come like.
Oh, they didn't come.
They
Well,
didn't
you're gonna
come
have
here.
that overlap in anything.
Right.
You can't control that.
What's the
But I
Well-
do think we ought to be paying the bills once a
And it's
month.
not a problem, other than the fact that this says.
It just says he can-
Otherwise.
No, it doesn't say it can do otherwise. It says the bills have to be paid, but it doesn't say when.
He's got it.
It doesn't say that,
But it says he can turn them in, it doesn't say the board has to approve them.
well, yeah, he has to turn them in, but,
Right.
but we have to approve them, right?
See, it doesn't say that there, so. I
The
don't
county
know.
code says it.
Well, when you dig into the treasury code, it has
Yes.
to be directed by the board.
It has to be
So
directed.
all bills are directed by the board, so she's controlled differently yet.
You're right, when you read their job descriptions, they all have different restrictions.
Right. I don't know.
And there's about 3 statutes that talk about bill paying, and unfortunately, they don't all agree.
Well, I think we ought to be doing it once a month.
Well, I think
It's
that's,
the only way
I
to
think
track
that's, I think that's where we need to bring it. Gene and say, hey, what's this all say in the whole book
Every
here?
nickel dime bill as it comes in.
Sometimes the
I
late
think for
fees
now,
quite a
it
bit,
would be a good idea to follow the auditor's recommendation.
I do too.
Which, that's fine, but I mean,
I mean, if we're talking about.
I need to do this, I'm not questioning this.
Right.
It came up at the meeting, it was discussed, so I brought it here. You all think you want to be,
Right.
know what's going on, it's in our minutes, and here it is, we're telling you what's going on.
Right. You're gonna have overlap
We're not hiding
in
anything.
every department. Bills are gonna come in.
You will now, yes.
Yeah,
They
you're
haven't
gonna
in the
have-
past, last year
Right.
they were paid, like she said, this year they weren't.
So if it messes up his budget, it messes up his budget. You can't control that.
So it was discussed, and it was brought up here. We didn't take any kind of action in camp. I'm just making you aware of it.
And as a point of reference, as Barb mentioned, that the budget committee did cut the sheriff's budget in this go around. We did cut his budget.
quite a bit.
Evidently, not enough, but it's quite.
But there are a lot of departments that have money left at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what we're counting.
That's what we're counting on, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other departments want to make a committee reports? If none, chairman appointments, a list of appointments have been sent out. And I think we have to, do we vote on all of these individually, or?
Well, Bruce, let me ask this. If the county chairman is not, county chairman's always made appointments to our committee meetings and stuff. So in the future, are they not gonna be able to appoint anybody to any committee, like the board says it's okay?
Well, we always have had board approval of the county chairman picks the members, and then the board approves the county chairman.
But how come we would have to approve all of these? I mean, these more or less, the county chairman's always just said, okay, you're on.
It's a statute that each one of them gets approved individually. We discussed that just, what, in the last couple of years? Jessica?
Yeah, because UCCI had directed.
Yeah, UCCI recommended each appointment be individual.
So when a new chairman takes over and he makes appointments, changes the personnel on each of the committees, are we gonna have to go through for each committee and for
Well,
each person?
Jessica will recommend to you at the beginning of the year reorganization meeting how that works.
It does say in your bylaws that you approved in December of 2018 that the chair shall appoint all committees unless otherwise directed by the board.
Okay, so
That's what your bylaws say.
So do I need motions on this, or can I just appoint these guys?
Well, I mean, for the county board committees, you could probably, between Dawn and Levon, you could probably do those as committee appointments, but then these aren't specific committee appointments. You would have to do each one of those after Dawn Tate. These are committees up here. So go to there and you can say, I want to make these committee appointments.
And start with LeBron and the individuals. Okay.
You got a question, now you got a question.
Well, I see there's more, I must have misplaced, it's right here. Anyway, I was thinking maybe making on this vote of last month, this month, but I won't touch it.
Whatever, we're trying to correct last month, okay?
Right.
So, for September, appointments for seats that are not filled and because of new members on the board, I would like to appoint David Switz to fees and salaries, and which also then puts him on the budget committee. And I'd like to remove David from the purchasing committee to make room for these two committees. Jeff Slifer, I'd like to appoint you to the purchasing, health, liquor, and public buildings committees. Those are a combination of, you're replacing Dale Weatherall, I believe. Those are some of his. Jim Arthur. And those are Jim's committees, basically. They don't all meet a lot. Health is a monthly, and purchasing will be public committee. So the only thing that doesn't meet on there is liquor. Bob Simpson, I'd like to appoint you to the animal control. Kenny Barr, I'd like to move you up to the chairman of the Public Buildings Committee. Candy Ditzler, I'd like to appoint you to Purchasing, Insurance, Region 8 Transportation Committee. Don Tate, who's not here, appoint him to the Public Building, Liquor, Miscellaneous Ambulance Committees.
I'd like to point something out over there. Don Tate is not here today because he had knee replacement surgery last Thursday and just got home on Saturday, so he's not physically able to be here today. But I talked to him yesterday and he's doing fine, just very, very sore and couldn't be here today.
I'll make a motion, Bruce.
Barb makes a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Frank. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. I'm going to appoint some people individually. Levon Cheney, I need a motion and a second on this. Appoint her to the Regional Office of Education Committee.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Got Earl. Jesse is a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed say nay. We're gonna skip over, Gary has asked me not to appoint him for Ask Me, and so we're gonna skip over that. I'll get you a new appointment next month. Gary Gardini, I'd like to appoint you to the Grievance Committee. I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion.
Got, Gary Patterson, a second. Second from Earl Baker. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Need a motion and a second. Lynn Williams, I'd like to appoint you to the Solid Waste Committee.
So moved.
Frank, second. Earl, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. David Pruitt, I'd like to appoint him to the Mental Health 708 Board.
So moved.
Levon makes a motion, I need a second from Jesse. Those approving say yes.
Mr. Chairman, what is that? Mental health, where the
Community services. Community
It's
services.
part of the community services, and we appoint all the members. Certain of those members are county board members, and others of those members are public. We're appointing David Pruitt as public.
Okay, so that's it, working with the health department
The
then?
mental
community
health,
services.
the portion of community health services, not Steve's health department.
No.
Okay,
This is the community services, Shelby Community Services.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Do you have a motion on that?
I'm grateful for
You did.
Yeah, you're Are we, okay, do we have one on Pruitt? Okay, I need those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say nay. Drainage Commissioner, I'd like to appoint Kent Cool, Drainage Commissioner, Union Township, District 1, Townships of Flat Branch and Assumption. I need a motion in a second. So moved. Bob Simpson, or Bob Jordan, second from Kenny Barr. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Drainage Commissioner, Julie Elmer, combined Clarksburg and Shelbyville Township Drainage District Number 1. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Jesse, second.
Frank.
Who? Frank?
I second.
Jesse, Frank. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Drainage Commissioner, Nancy Hannigan, combined Drainage District 2, Town of Tower Hill. I need a motion and a second. Gary and Bob Simpson. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, that's it for appointments.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. How many drainage districts are appointed and how many are elected officials?
They're all appointed.
No, they're not.
No,
Okay.
I don't know.
How many districts do we appoint each year?
I'd have to look.
Because I would have thought it had been more than 3 districts.
Oh,
We
it's
do.
more. This is a month.
We do, but I have to wait till they present their paperwork, and they're not all open about that.
Okay, that's what was my question, because most of the time that's supposed to take place in September.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's why I was curious.
That, it just so happens that these particular 3 are represented by a particular law firm that takes care of their stuff, the rest of them are not.
Gotcha.
And when we get these appointments in, they're all, well, stuff we appoint, they're recommended to the law firm for that drainage district. The lead counsel typically recommends them to the board. Okay. Approved payment of claims. We need a roll call to approve the payment of the claims as approved by the purchasing committee. So we have a motion to pay the claims.
So moved.
Terry Metzger makes a motion to pay the claims for the month. We have a second by Brian Kaufman. Any discussion? If none, Jessica, call roll.
Earl Baker,
Yes.
Kenny Barr, Barbara Bennett,
Yes.
Levon Cheney,
Yes.
Brian Kaufman,
Yes.
Candy Ditzler,
Yes.
Dennis Druvich,
Yes.
Jesse Durbin,
Yes.
Gary Gergany,
Yes.
Richard Hayden,
Yes.
Robert Jordan,
Yes.
Larry Lenz,
Yes.
Terry Metzger,
Yes.
Frank Mulholland,
Yes.
Bobby Warman,
Yeah.
Gary Patterson,
Yes.
Robert Simpson,
Yes.
Jess Leifer,
Yes.
David Switz,
Yes.
and Lynn Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Okay. And it's time for my favorite part of the meeting, public body comment. Who wants to go? Go ahead, Lana.
A few meetings ago, I mentioned to you all that words matter, and so I'm gonna go back there again today. In the handout, the emails that you all received, and all of us out here received, even though there's some highlighted areas, reading it all is extremely important. And it's a little concerning that Mr. Vanderberg disappeared again before public body comment. He did that at the last meeting as well. I'd have thought he'd have stuck around to listen to what was being said, but that's neither here nor there. Once again today, Mr. Cannon, you mentioned that Alicia Binsford's firm is out of Chicago. That is not appropriate. It's not correct. It's not accurate. I really wish this board would quit saying that they are out of Chicago, because that gives it a negative connotation that it does not deserve. Mr. Vanderberg mentioned that he mentioned it in the last meeting that he was at, and he mentioned it today, that he has no ethical obligation to share any information that he uncovers during the payroll audit other than with the board. As a taxpaying citizen, and the fact that Alicia Binford has mentioned more than once that it is her ethical duty to share with the board how her report could be utilized in a recovery of funds and overpayment, he's never once mentioned that. He said he would give you all a report, and then it's up to you what you decide to do with the rest of the judicial system. If he finds illegalities going on, he has an ethical duty to do what he should do to help the county and the taxpayers recoup those funds. In her engagement letter from February 2020, which you all probably have access to, she said she has an ethical duty to help recover those funds. She has a master's in governmental accounting. I don't understand why you all don't think that that would be important given what we've got going on here. John Vanderberg, verbatim, said in his address to you all at the last meeting he was at, "This is not about recovering dollars. Go into this understanding you are not going to recover dollars." As a taxpaying citizen, that is deeply concerning to me. It says to me that he's in bed with somebody and he has absolutely no desire to uncover or to recoup what the taxpayers are owed. Ms. Binford said, "We should approach you, being the board, should approach this matter with the goal of recovering funds because the Elected Official Misconduct Forfeiture Act compels you to do so." She said her group would work with IMRF for the overpayments and the overcalculations. So you guys wonder why you're under such scrutiny? As taxpaying citizens, we sit out here and watch absolutely nothing being done to protect the taxpaying citizens. And that's not right.
We are taxpayers.
It's not right at all. I understand you pay taxes, but you're not doing anything to protect the taxpayers. And it's frustrating.
I have one question. You said in bed. What did you mean by that? Who
I'm
with?
telling you the perception.
No, you said in bed.
I said the perception
He
was.
said in bed.
You did.
I didn't say in bed. I said the perception is when you're not doing what you need to do to protect the taxpayers, that you're in bed with someone. And I think you know what the phrase in bed means.
What does it mean? I want your interpretation.
That you're doing stuff under the table on the down low and not being open and honest and transparent with the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's really disappointing. The other thing is, I think Bobby.
Martha, you know what I think? I think you need to go to the clerk's office and you need to pick up a petition next year, and you need to walk around and you need to get those names on it, and you need to run for the board. And then you've got to vote. You don't have to sit out there and listen. You can vote then.
I appreciate that offer. I'm on city council, so I'm busy enough, but I think as a citizen, I have every right to stand here and to voice my concerns and my opinions. I don't have to be sitting in there to do that.
Yeah.
So please don't
You don't have to, but that's what you should do. Then you've got to vote to do something about it.
You know what, the taxpaying citizens vote with their mouths and they share their thoughts. Who was it? Mr. Gergen mentioned he's received how many calls and how many discussions for tax paying citizens? Actually, tax payers do. Mr. Orman started to bring up. What was that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Would you like to repeat that? What did you say?
He said he's tired of listening to
Oh,
it.
that's what I thought he said. Thank you. You got that on camera, right?
You bet.
Mr. Orman started to bring up who in here appointed Gina as the contact person for Vanderburg. I don't believe that the state's attorney's office has the records, the payroll records that are going to be required to do this investigation. So I'm not 100% sure why that would be done through the state's attorney's office. And if there are illegalities found in what's going on, and it's up to the judicial system to take care of it, you've got your state's attorney who's been involved in the investigation now turning around and supposed to handle it if there's any illegalities going on. You guys are allowing your personal vendettas and your personal opinions to overrun what you need to be doing for the taxpaying citizens. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jordan, I made a comment to the young lady here just a minute ago that she should go down and get a petition to have a voice on the board. She does that once every 2 to 4 years. Hers is called a vote. She voted every person in here to be her representation, her voice on the county board. Now, me personally, I am running. I am on the ballot, and I will be sitting with you all for the next 2, 4, 10, 12, who knows. You're probably not going to like me very much, but that's okay. I'm used to that. But you are her voice. She does not have to run for it.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you mentioned the point of contact. Many may not recall, but Mr. Vanderburg made it pretty clear that it would be the board that would have to decide who the point of contact was going to be, whether it be the chairman or a committee or the whole board. That's never taken place. So if the point of contact has been delegated to the state's attorney, I would also agree, and I'm confident that any competent lawyer or judge or anybody that would look at this would see you don't have the judicial member involved in an investigation that potentially is going to lead to something possibly criminal. The board needs to determine who that point of contact is, because the board's the client, not the state's attorney. As far as who your auditor is, that's not my concern. In one breath, the reason to not select an auditor was because of where her office is, which is Bolingbrook, not Chicago. Yet behind closed doors, the opposite takes place with the push to have a court appoint an attorney related to a board member. And she does work in Chicago. That's called hypocrisy. And while one was done in the open, the other was done behind closed doors. There's other certain obligations that if family members do become vendors, there's certain legal requirements there too. I would encourage that everybody brush up on those. Chairman, your letter to the state's attorney is a disgrace to even the most basic rule of law. You completely ignored each and every violation of the law. You claim the board knew what was going on at the highway department, yet several have told us otherwise, and that's been confirmed today. Statement of economic interest are there for a reason. When people fail to disclose these interests year after year, it's no wonder few knew the truth. Never mind the fact that numerous people have confirmed Mr. Spessard's partner also did private business work on county time. Must be nice to get paid by the county so you can work on your own business to put even more money in your pocket. How you can defend this crap is beyond me. I will assume the state's attorney has not responded to the board members and treasurer's request for an appellate prosecutor to handle a criminal investigation. If you get no response, I urge you to contact the ISP yourself and file a formal written criminal complaint. Bullet points of interest. Person turning in hours never worked gets to retire or resign rather than face official misconduct. That was even in a legal bill for Mr. Flynn. That's not fixing anything, that's letting them get away with it. A county treasurer telling you for over a year there's a major problem with payroll, and it was stated that the pressure from the public is why we must do this audit. So much for just doing the right thing because it's the right thing. Claims made, meetings were posted, but even after numerous attempts to get the actual video to prove or disprove, no video got produced for the time in question. That person's now gone. He's retired from the sheriff's office. A state's attorney that gave herself a pay raise and paid it back, yet a chairman that thinks stop turning in claims for non-eligible meetings is sufficient. You see, fixing things is not just about stopping the illegal act, but making it right. You should pay the county back what you owe, just as the state's attorney did. Farm ground leased, yet to this day, the property tax obligations under the law have been ignored. I suspect we'll find the same at the airport hangars being leased. Those too have property tax obligations. Don't take my word for it. Ask the FAA and the Department of Revenue. If you can't be honest in a letter to your own legal counsel, Chairman, you should resign. And I'm going to speak to the points in that letter. Your first paragraph, Alan Spessard's been Shelby County engineer for 20 years. I've been on the board for 12, and this is my second term as chairman. During my term, Alan has also been employed by the city of Shelbyville, assisting them with municipal engineering of bridges, roads, and sidewalks. You start the next paragraph with a claim, it has been alleged that Mr. Spessard's work described above has been illegal. I challenge you to show us where anyone said his working for the city was illegal. Nobody said that, ever, and we haven't. In no way, shape, or form. That's a complete misrepresentation of truth. What is improper, and I think most courts would find illegal, is use of public funds, resources, and property to operate a private business out of the county highway department. That's what we said. You said the previous county directors and managers verbally waived this contract. How convenient, they verbally waived it. There's no proof of that. That's just your opinion. This one, the next ending of that paragraph is quite telling. The city and county worked hand in hand, and the county board members that were engaged knew of Mr. Spessard's efforts, and the practice of co-engineering has been maintained for years. What do you mean by engaged? Aren't all county board members engaged? See, that's the problem. Mr. Spessard's contract wasn't signed by the county board, it was signed by a committee. The engagement should be the whole board. And I don't know what you mean by engaged, but it's a telling word in that paragraph. You said, since it's always been done that way, it never occurred to me to have an attorney draft an intergovernmental agreement, or that we need to include something in the contract with Mr. Spessard that allowed this work arrangement, or that we need to remove the county term that has been quoted. The state law is real simple on his obligations, his duties, his term of office at 6 years. Why make a carve out for one city and not the whole county? Why is it okay to do it for them? What about all the other municipalities that are in this county? It's almost as if this is an intentional protection letter. It's further been alleged Mr. Spessard has committed the crime of official misconduct. I'm not a lawyer, but the statute provides that to commit this crime, a person must perform an act that he has forbidden by law to perform. Well, I don't know about y'all, but Article 8, Section 1 of the Constitution says public funds, property, and credit shall be used for only public purpose. Shelby Engineering is a private limited liability company owned by 2 of your county employees operating out of public property. So if you don't see that that's a problem, you should resign. Next paragraph, having been verbally asked to perform the duties of municipal engineer at time of hire, and the duties had been performed over the term of Mr. Spessard's hire, how could this be a crime? The county board has in this case gone along with the verbal agreement. No, the county board didn't go along with it because the county board didn't know about it. And how can it be a crime? Article 8, Section 1, it's real simple. It's also a crime to willfully or knowingly file a false or incomplete statement of economic interest. For years, as far back as the records reflect, Mr. Spessard hasn't filed a proper statement of economic interest and disclosed his private interest in that company working out of county property. But you have no problem with it. You close with, it's my position the county has not suffered any loss of any kind, and because of the work arrangement described. Well, how do you know that? Have you looked at the payroll and the overtime? Have you fielded the tips that came in from the city when city work was being done instead of county time? How you came to that conclusion is nothing more than your speculation, and the paper trail won't support it. You close with Mr. Spessard's attorney in the city of Shelbyville you're working to revise Mr. Spessard's contract and draft an intergovernmental agreement. Now, I'm all for intergovernmental agreements. They've got a great purpose. But not one word in your letter about Shelby Engineering. And I can say you didn't know what was going on to some degree because the head snap at the highway department told me so when you found out that there were other municipalities he's representing besides Shelbyville. Full disclosure is important. I want to make a comment. I don't recall her name, but the board member that made reference to the county payments, it takes a long time to learn how to read and understand what a statute says and its implication in the grasp of the whole. Thank you for your comment because it was spot on of what the law says. There's a lot of different ways people want to read something, and it's easy to take out of context if you haven't learned how to do that, and it does take time. That's where good legal counsel comes into play to explain when it's under the county code, the county approves claims. The county board approves those claims. That's crystal clear. Yeah, they can spend their money on whatever they want once it's budgeted, but the claims still have to be approved by this public body. I would hope this December 1st we start to see something actually get fixed and some hard internal look into a mirror as to what's going on in here. Because this isn't about us. We do this all over the country. This is nothing new for us. But what I see here is a bunch of infighting and nepotism and favoritism and just outright, we're not going to do it because you exposed it. And that's childish. That's all I have.
Any other public body comment? Pay the bills? Okay. You have a motion for adjourn, or, well, we have a closed session. State's attorney, we have a motion to go into closed session.
For what purpose?
5 ILCS 120-2C11 pending litigation.
Well, if it's litigation on those two cases the county's facing, she's recused herself for conflict of interest. So who's your attorney? They've had a counsel assigned to the board and to the treasurer.
I think Gina's going to update us on that.
She recused herself. So just wanted to put that out there so you can all think about it.
Recuse yourself, or do you want to appoint, you want to inform the board on what's going on with these attorneys? Or you want them to find out, I don't know, by some other method? Rumor, perhaps?
I mean, I am not your legal counsel technically on this litigation, so I think we could still discuss it. I'm not the legal counsel, but I could still have an opinion on it. What you do in the litigation is between yourself and the new counsel.
Something tells me you're probably just better not.
Okay, we have a motion made to go into executive session. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Gary Patterson. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Roll call.
Okay, Earl Baker.
Yes.
Kenny Barr.
Yes.
Barbara Bennett.
Yes.
Levon Cheney.
Yes.
Brian Kaufman.
Yes.
Candy Ditzler.
Yes.
Dennis Sturdivich.
Yes.
Jesse Durbin.
Yes.
Gary Gergening.
No.
Richard Hayden.
Yes.
Bob Jordan.
Yes.
Larry Lenz. Terry Metzger.
Yes.
Frank Mulholland.
Oh, yes.
Bobby Orman. Gary Patterson.
Yes.
Robert Simpson.
Yes.
Jeff Slifer.
Present.
David Switz. John Tate. Oh, never mind. Lynn Williams.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed, 17-2 with one voting present.
The last board meeting. When they asked him if he'd been with the board before, he said not anymore. I said yes.